Yes,
Shekhar?
Samira, are we good to go? We can
Yes,
start?
perfect.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and whichever part of the world you are in. First up, before we start, a very happy World Yoga Day to all of you, and also a World Music Day. It's also World Music Day today. And today is the seventh episode of the S Factor. And in the last six episodes, we've had thought leaders, we've had radio jockeys, we've had influencers, we had entrepreneurs, we had educationalists, we had environmentalists, and today we have a very eclectic set of people joining us on this panel discussion. In the next 1 hour, it's going to be very interactive. Hopefully, they won't make us do any yoga asanas, but on a more lighter note, we're going to make sure it's 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 going to be it's going to be a session full of knowledge, hopefully, and it's going to be a collection of very interesting, very creative minds. And on that note, I want to get Samira in, who's looking bright and fresh with the nice backdrop. Yes, Samira.
Thank you, Shekhar. And once again, a warm welcome to you all and happy World Yoga Day. It is so great when eminent personalities like you all, who are considerably influencing society, are here to make a difference. So I would like to start by introducing you all to the show. A warm welcome to Franz Andrini, my friend of 20 plus years, who is also the founder of Yoga Andrini. Well, you need to know that he's absolutely passionate about yoga, teaches it not only through personal, one-to-one relations, but also through the website and many other mediums. We also have with us Rajvi Mehta, who is the founder and she's an author of a book, Imagine If, which has been recently released by Westland Publications. We also have with us Dr. Madhavi Reddy from Motherhood Hospitals. They're into maternity, gynecology, and many other services which we will hear about. Our honor and privilege to have with us Snigdha Bharadwaj, who is also, an entrepreneur. She's been with a lot of MNCs in different parts of the world, and she's the founder of Yoga Bliss, and she's also passionate about the art of living and takes it forward. Uh, we have an eminent personality who absolutely needs no introduction with us, Dr. Gigi Gangadharan, and he was, interacting with us on a different show a few weeks back, and the viewers were incredibly supportive and happy with the tips that he has shared. He is also from the Ramaya Ayurveda Hospital, and a warm welcome to you, to all of you on this show. I would also like to acknowledge the support of quite a few of our supporters, Ecosol Global, Shevins Entertainment, Boopalam, Botanical Cicada Media, I Am Here, IJ Enablers, Westland Publications, Treadworks, Elephant Marketing, Sunshine Bakers, eTransform, Peppercoins, Yoga Andrini, and Jagrati Education. Over to you, Shekhar.
Thank you, Samira. Thank you for that very warm and very interesting note. Now, as you told, we've got some very eclectic set of speakers and panelists amongst us. So it goes without saying, when I think of yoga, yoga for me means the confluence of mind, body, and soul. And, I want to start with Franz and then move on to other panelists. Franz, what does yoga mean to you? What does in terms of purpose, in terms of vision, what does it mean to you? For me, it means a confluence of mind, body, and soul. How does it work for you, Franz?
Well, over the years, I probably redefined the concept of what yoga means for me. That's kind of natural thing. The realizations are different, perhaps more profound, and therefore, so the realization of the past was perhaps like confluence of the body, mind, and soul. But then over the time, when you meditate more and you practice more, and when you go deeper into the teachings and you start living yoga, then you realize actually that these three perhaps don't matter that much, and you kind of you're bound to cast them away at some point in time, right? And so you're looking for the essence, because yoga, it means alignment, basically. It means union, right? So in the first stages, make the union coming and outgoing breath. We're talking from Hatha Yoga perspective, right? And then in the next stages, we make the union, when the union of the incoming outgoing breath is there, so that the yogis are exacerbating comes up, and that type of air actually brings buddhi, the intellect, right? So the future thought, which is mind, and the past thought, which is consciousness, unite, and it becomes intellect. So intellect, we can discern. The main function of intellect is to discern what is real, what is not real, what is permanent, what is not permanent. As you know, great Shankaracharya, the scholar of India, the one who actually lifted the Hinduism on his shoulders, actually,
Yes.
and, some 1,200 years back, 1,300 almost. And so his seminal work is called Viveka, the crash jewel of discrimination. So discrimination is a part of intellect, to understand what is real and what is not real. And then the last stage is when we can establish what is real and what is not real, is the union of the self with that supreme self. I mean, that higher consciousness, which is all pervading in this world. So this is not a Disneyland talk. This is kind of realization that can dawn upon anyone in the field of yoga and profound meditation that yoga includes. So therefore, yoga is probably that finitude of union between when you as a self, you're not anymore separated with each and every part of the life, and you feel it actually. So you understand that pain of somebody is also your pain in a greater perhaps it's a bit painful at times to acknowledge these realizations, they're necessary, and you are forced to go towards them in any case. So basically, I feel at the end of the day, you are merging with just about everyone. That's the concept of Paramatma, means it's in every little atom, in every living being inside. You become them inside. So it's more than just union of the body, mind, and soul. That's pretty much just an individualistic concept. But going beyond individualism is connecting to the real essence of every living entity. Then we understand, and then we understand that mula, root of the crux of the existence.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You just gave us a masterclass about yoga, and I think when you spoke, one could sense there was a lot of peace, there was a lot of calmness, and there was a sense of balance. And that sense of balance we've also achieved on the Zoom link, because initially, because you're on a Zoom platform, you always have somebody not pressing the mute button, and now I think everything has just stood still. Now, on that note, Snigdha ji, I have to ask you this question because you were one of the early birds to join this call. What is your perspective on yoga? Because, like Franz ji said, yoga is a confluence of is his perspective on it. What is your perspective on yoga on the occasion of World Yoga Day?
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you, Franz. Wonderful definition on yoga. And taking it forward, I would like to present my perspective, my understanding and experience. More than understanding or perspective, is the experience that matters, isn't it? Especially for yogis. So my experience on yoga is just one word, the short form, which is called iPod, IPOD, the Apple word, But in Art of Living, we call it as inner peace, outer dynamism. That's what is achieved when we practice yoga. So definitely, as you said, Shekhar, earlier, that it is the confluence of mind, body, mind, and spirit. Of course, the breath, because the word yoga is come from the Sanskrit word yuj. Yuj means union. So in the union of these three brings a lot of peace within you, but that gets translated to outer dynamism. So this is one understanding of yoga that I have. The second understanding, two, three understandings and experience I would like to share. Sage Patanjali, the propounder of yoga about 10,000 years ago, where it all began. So he has divided this whole thing into 8 limbs. That's called 8 limbs of yoga, out of which asanas are one of the 8 limbs. Asanas, as the world probably understands very popularly today, that yoga means all twisting body postures, making a pretzel out of the body. And then one says, yes, I have done yoga. No, that's just 1/8 of the whole part of yoga that you have done. The rest of the 7 parts are yama, niyama, then comes asana, then comes pranayam, then comes pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So I'll not go into the details, but let me just tell you, yama, niyama are the self-discipline and how you conduct in the outer world. So the inner discipline as well as the outer discipline. And I'm one big fan of being disciplined in my life, because coming from Air Force background as an Indian Air Force officer, discipline was what helped us keep us on feet. That saves nation, as we all know, right? So yoga is the discipline. Yoga is a science. Last but not the least, yoga is a science. In what way is it the science? We always compare yoga, or we come to, or we define health as yoga, or people say that you want health, do yoga. So what does this health mean? Health is the 3-dimensional fact. It is the physical health, the mental health, and the emotional health. Now, yoga takes care of all these 3 aspects of health. That is why we call it yoga is a science. My Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar, he says, yoga is a science. It is a behavioral science also, because once you are into yoga, practicing all the 8 limbs of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the Yoga Sutras, you can take care of your relationships. You can get emotional upheaval, all the clutter in the emotions that gets washed off. Then you get a spiritual upliftment. Spirituality is not religion. It's just what I said earlier, inner peace, outer dynamism. Taking care of your mind is spirituality. Don't we all want to be strong from within? Yeah? Is it?
Absolutely.
Who doesn't? That's a very silly question to ask. But we end up reading a lot of things. Go to Google Baba and read up a lot of things, but it all gets stuck at the intellect level. It never comes down to the experience level. How does it come down to the experience level? Again, yoga comes to the rescue. So the third aspect is the physical aspect, which we already spoke, right? Asanas.
Correct.
So this is what yoga for me. It takes care of the health, which is the science. It takes care of my mind, all the 3 aspects, right? So this was the goal from the ancient rishis and sages, and it's still here. And as we proceed, probably I would like to throw some more points without taking up much more time right now on the first half, and give others the chance to talk.
Thank you, Snigdha ji. You give us a very interesting perspective on yoga. Franz ji spoke about the revered Sri Adi Shankaracharya, who was, I think, extremely inspirational, and he spoke about the asanas. I have to go to Professor Mr. Gangadharan. Sir, I heard you speaking the other day, and I think it was very passionate, very interesting. And I would love to know your perspective, sir, on Yoga Day, and what does it really mean to you?
It is not perspective. Actually, it is yoga to me is a universal truth. And a yoga is based on a universal principles. That is why it exceeds all the time and space. It is not eco-specific, it is not region-specific or anything. It is applicable to any given time and space. That's why even now, 21st century also, it is relevant. It is going to be relevant for coming centuries also. It has become an inspiration for youngsters. So as told by previous speakers, very clearly, the first sutra of Patanjali, Yoga Sutra, says very clearly what is yoga. It says without ambiguity that yogastu chitta vritti nirodha. So this word is very important, chitta and vritti. See, vritti is the all characteristics of mind. Without chitta vritti, there is no mind. And yoga is advocating and yoga is promising that you can do nirodha, you can stop, you can make the mind blank, so that the mind will be able to communicate with the universal consciousness without any blocks. Why we are not able to have the macro and micro connection is the mind is the biggest blocker. So all steps of yoga in this asana is one, is a travel towards that eternity, that truth in which we are all striving to be there. So the block is the chitta vritti. And the first sutra, we give a very clear definition of yoga is yogastu chitta vritti nirodha. It's very easy to say vritti nirodham. It is the most impossible thing to do unless you have got a very great guru on you and he's blessing you, and you have got a tremendous practice starting from yama and niyama, then going to different stages. The last stage of yoga gives what is chitta vritti nirodha, samadhi. Samadhi is an unended, uninterrupted communion with the universal consciousness. So that is the ultimate aim. So when millions of people try for that, one among million reaches that. But let us keep always our aim at a very high stage so that we stay in this birth, we reach somewhere. So yoga wants to step in, like it is told in Gita, Nahi kalyana kaschil durgadim tada gachadi. So whatever steps you make now, even though you may not achieve the ultimate goal, but you reach somewhere, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, so that when the next janma you take, as per our Indian understanding, Uday Chadurbhi Sagadaihi, we reach to the next zygote form from the sperm and the ovum of your parents. You take this karma with you and get to the 3rd stage or 4th stage where we ended last time. So yoga to me is a very great expectation. It is a life, way of life. It is not a abhyasa, it is not a asana, it is not a practice. It is a life kind of a stream, and it is an evolving stage. Every stage you are evolving to one level. And so you can see yogic practitioners with different good gurus in different stages of their evolution. You can see highly evolved people, you can see semi-baked people, so you can see some people in a very preliminary stage. So the yoga to everyone should be the complete vritti nirodha of chitta, the stoppage of mind action.
Thank you, sir. You make it as simple as it is. Samira, over to you.
Yeah, I think very interesting insights shared. And I would like to now turn our focus to, Dr. Madhavi. And Dr. Madhavi, you're from Motherhood Hospitals. And, I just want to ask you, what is the blend? Today also happens to be World Music Day. Keeping in mind that women want to, enjoy life, feel more relaxed. What is the correlation between yoga and music and, having an influence on the mind, body, and soul?
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Madhvi from Motherhood Hospital. I'm a gynecologist at HRVR branch. So when we talk about, mainly we are dealing only with women health issues. So we see a range of women health issues right from childhood, adolescence, and when you're pregnant and menopausal stage. So when we go through all this, especially we are more focused for pregnant women. So nowadays the generation is in such a way that when we ask them to do few simple exercises, they say we don't have time to perform them. So because of all these issues, now we have started a prenatal yoga session. So at least twice in a week where they can spend some time and they can start doing these yoga as well as pranayamas and some other exercises, what physiotherapists here, we call them as Lama's class sessions. And we have seen a tremendous improvement in the rate of normal deliveries once we see women following them regularly. Just doing once or twice a week may not help, but yes, once we teach them, at least if they follow it regularly, we have seen the graph changing. Of late, maybe a decade back, we would have seen the section rate was quite high compared to normal delivery rate. This was basically because of many had lost interest in activity. There was completely lifestyle changes and the nutritional improvement. By improving the nutrition, the baby's birth weight has drastically improved from what we used to have 2.5 as the average birth weight. Now we see an average birth weight of 3 to 3.2. So this has become another reason, and lack of exercises. And when we ask them to do household activities, they tell us that no, doctor, my parents and my grandmother has told us not to do anything. So this is where the discouragement happens. When a doctor, we ourselves tell them, you can do your routine activities, you can perform these exercises, yet many of them don't do. So this is the reality, and we are trying to change this trend by introducing Lamas classes in our hospital, and we see a good number of enrollment of women, and I've seen a lot of change, and really this will matter a lot when a woman comes during delivery. I mean, the woman who is performing regularly with these exercises, they have ease at delivering. They know how to take each contractions. Taking a labor pain is not simple, but when we are taught in a right way, they do. So I feel yoga plays a very important role in this way. And you had another question about the music therapy. Yes, when we go through the antenatal visits, when we see that the mother is really stressed, maybe the domestic stress or a work pressure, we see that the baby's growth is impaired. What we say, the growth is restricted. So for these women, we do ask them to listen to music, do meditation, and I've seen a lot of change. And when we do a next growth assessment, I see there is a lot of improvement. So definitely music will also play a role along with yoga and meditation. This is my opinion.
Wonderful, wonderful. And when you talk about this correlation, I would like to move on to Rajvi Mehta, who is also, apart from being a reproductive biologist by training and profession, she has also come out with this book. Congratulations, very interesting book on Imagine If. And in the book you also talk about Guruji, where Guruji BKS Iyengar, where he says yoga does not change the way the person sees things, but it transforms the person who sees. And my question to you is about transformation. What is the transformation that we can expect through, yoga?
Thanks, Amira, and thanks for the compliments on the book. Actually, I would like to go back a little on your question on music. Yeah. And, since it's World Yoga Day, International Day of Yoga, and the International Day of Music, I would like to quote Guruji here, who said, yoga is like music. The rhythm of the body, the melody of the mind, and the harmony of the soul create symphony of life. So when the body, mind, soul are so unanimous that you get a symphony. But when they are separate, there is cacophony. So it is basically this integration that is brought about by the practice of yoga that you get this kind of the symphony of life, as he says it. And when we start, whenever one starts, we understand the body separately. You consider the skeletal-muscular body, the physiological body, the mental body, the emotional body, the intellectual body, and the consciousness and the conscious and the conscience, the antakarna. Now, when these are all separated, there is a conflict between each of them. The most common articulated is the conflict between the body and mind. We often say, my mind doesn't support what my body wants to do, or the body doesn't support what my mind wants to do. And we are at some level of conflict, and that brings disharmony and unhappiness. So what are the tools that we have with us? So like a musician has either the vocalist or a musician has an instrument. And remember, all the great musicians, they tune their instrument. Yeah. You don't find a musician who just goes and plays. They take so much time to tune that instrument, because it is through that which they generate their music. Similarly for us, what's the instrument we are born with? Only the body. Okay, so it is through this body that we can attain this symphony of life. We can attain this bliss of life. And when that happens with this integration of all these aspects, that's where transformation occurs. So when I start something, I see something with different aspects. But when they all get integrated, the way I see things change. So that's what is transformation. And it happens very gradually. It cannot happen pre-planned. I cannot decide that on 1st of January, I will get transformed. So that's where we make all our New Year's resolutions. But I would like to know how many percentage of the people who make New Year's resolution actually manage to continue it for beyond a month. Most of the times, they fly off. So that is where we are trying to change ourselves first of the day. But in the case of practice of yoga, the transformations are so gradual that if somebody asks you, when did this thing happen to you? You have no answer because it's so gradual. While change is something which is intentionally brought about, transformation is extremely gradual. So you don't know when you started and when the shades have changed. So that's how it transforms people. And that comes through practice. It cannot come through intellectual cerebral understanding.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. And on that, not imaginary note, but on that visible note, I have to ask Franz a question. Franz, you know, I'm sure you know that today is the World Yoga Day celebrated across the world, and India has been at the forefront, trying to spread the message as much as we can. But we also see that this is something which has to be percolated down to every nook and corner of the world as we talk. As in, we are all talking about it here. We're trying to create a movement around it. But from your perspective, what can be done in terms of making sure people connect with yoga? When I'm talking about people, not just our age group, I'm talking about children as young as 10 years old to somebody as old as 20 years old to somebody as old as 40, 60, 70, 80. I'm talking in that perspective.
Well, I see no problem with for people connecting with yoga around the world. I'm having students from right now at the age they are 15 years old, and the oldest is perhaps like 64. So yeah, I see there's a range of all kind of studenthood around, and I don't think so. There's really, I would say, that we need to be apprehensive about, lack of yoga around the world in general. Today, is so to say, every fifth housewife is a yoga teacher. So this is a very good news for the spread of yoga. Actually, everyone goes for some yoga classes. A lot of them go for some teacher training courses, and they master something. I mean, that's useful for their life, and some of them more or less successfully impart that knowledge to other people as well. So we see actually that yoga hasn't diminished. Yoga has grown exponentially, and it's still growing. In fact, it's just growing, parallelly with the world population. It's just so it's a good news. So there will be always some who will not go for yoga. Of course, in the realm of all these people who practice yoga, they are mostly on the physical aspect of the asanas. But even then, I mean, the asanas itself, I mean, if they're done in a very, how we call it, traditional manner, you inhale, come up, exhalation takes you down, right? So inhalation takes you up, exhalation takes you down. So then you hold for a certain amount of breaths, some asana, then you exit the asana, either with inhalation or exhalation. It does something to you. Like one of my friends told me years back, he said, I've seen people who are totally unspiritual. He used to run a yoga studio for many, many years, some in Asia. And he said, I used to see people who are very unspiritual, but just coming to yoga classes and doing this downward dog for 100 times or 1,000 times, it's something changed in them. And they were ending up meditating as well. And so I think yoga has that power. The asanas also have that power, despite so-called just physical aspect, which I don't see it exactly just as that. So we can see that the yoga will be only spreading. It's going into different kind of hybrid forms and different kind of brand forms and so on and so forth. It's expanding, but that's expected because whenever something becomes big or gigantic, or it's adopted by a public at large, then its evolution takes its own course. I mean, things start diverging a little bit, and that's the part of the game. I don't see there's any particular, you don't need to be apprehensive about the future of yoga around the world. I think people will be practicing We see a great explosion of practice in Africa. So we see, I mean, Asia, Europe, America, North America, particularly Mexico. Everyone practices yoga. People from all over the world. I mean, from Patagonia to Mongolia, everyone does yoga, and that's a good thing about it, actually. So it has become a property of everybody. I always say yoga belongs to those who practice it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Franz. Now, when you were talking about it has become a property of everybody, that explains that actually is the answer to the world. When you were talking about yoga, I was also thinking of, I had made a trip to Mount Kailash, Mansarovar Lake a few years back. And I think I'm just lucky I managed to make the trip and do the entire parikrama around the mountains. Now, incidentally, when you go to this place called Mount Kailash, Mansarovar Lake, you see the mountains have a shape of Lord Shiva in a yoga asana. I actually like this. So it's how you look at it. And that leads me to my next question. And, all of your yoga practitioners, and we've got people who are listening in who are very, who would want to know more about yoga. So if in the message box, and if all of you could show us a particular yoga pose you have, I know we are on video, but if you have a yoga pose of yours, which is your favorite, then Samira will go ahead and give you a gift right away.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could put your favorite yoga asana in the message box if you cannot show the video. But if you show a particular pose of yours, which is very popular, which you like, which is the best pose of yours, we've got a prize for you. What do you say, Samira?
Of course, I'm game. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. So please show us your best pose for the next 1 minute. Anything. Just don't go to sleep.
Well, wait a second. Do we have to put a picture there, or we are? I mean,
You can just show it, like, what's your favorite yoga pose? It could be anything, and you could also put it in the message box. It could be any asana which you feel is something which you really like to do at any given point of the day. It could be anything.
Very frank, my stomach is too full to do my favorite yoga pose. So I had a lunch for this talk, so I'm out of the price. Maybe I can give it to someone else. But I think the picture that I sent for the pamphlet, I think this is one of definitely Chakorasana is definitely one of my favorite yoga positions. Love it. So.
All right. We've got a lot of responses on the message. We've got Yoganindra, Radhika Pai says that. And we've also got Makarasana. And Snigdha ji, if you have anything, if you want to show a pose, please. Rajvi ji, you can use your imagination and show us a pose. And
Can I show a pose?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I'll show Chakrasana.
Okay.
Have some action to take off the sleep, if anybody's feeling asleep.
I think everybody's in a high level of consciousness right now as we talk. Yeah.
So, am I visible?
Yeah.
All right. Here we go for Chakrasana. I saw Kalaji writing Chakrasana. So this also happens to be my favorite. So here we go.
Wow.
Then you can raise your leg like this, come back, walk, come back. Simple and nice.
Thank you, Snigdha ji. You made it seem like just like a walk in the park for the uninitiated, that is. But I think that's very nice. Can we all clap for her? If we're in a live place, we would have ideally clapped and cheered on. Thank you so much.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Yeah.
And so gracefully done. Yes. Dr. Madhavi, I'm sure, ma'am, do you have a favorite yoga pose of yours which you like or which you would recommend to your patients?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we generally recommend our butterfly pose for most of the pregnant ladies, which is simple and easy to do.
All right. So the butterfly pose, and yes, Rajvi ma'am has got something lined up for us.
I think you have to unmute yourself, Rajvi.
No, since she mentioned Baddha Konasana, I thought I can demonstrate it, but I'm just trying to get the camera right so one can sit and you can get your action correctly. So you just sit in Baddha Konasana and you can sort of
Amazing.
Amazing, amazing, Rajvi.
sit straight, and then you can of course go to Padmasana or whichever asanas you wish to do. And do the different arm actions, maybe a Gomukhasana, or if you want to do a Gomukhasana, it would be like Padmasana. So I think yes. Then anyway, it's a talk show, so let's get on with it.
Thank you so much. But I must say, all of you are so sporting and so graceful in what you do, and that makes it more interesting. Thank you so much, Rajvi ji, Snigdha ji, Franz ji, and Samira. Over to you. And we've also got a lot of responses on the message box. So Samira, you have to choose the winner now.
Yes, it's a bit hard, but I think we will let you know very soon. And now a question to all of you together. Can you hear me? Is it clear?
Yeah, we hear you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
So I want to say, in our life, usually sometimes there is something that really inspires us to start and get involved in what we do. It could be as small or big. For example, if it is cooking, the first thing that comes to my mind is my mom. I should help her out in the kitchen. If it is, for example, writing a book, it is a favorite author of mine who comes to my mind. So I would like to put this question to you in one word, one answer. What has inspired you to start and take on yoga and to reach and scale the heights that you are currently in today? I would like to start by asking Professor Dr. G.G. Gangadharan. Please go ahead, sir.
Many personalities have influenced me, but no one like B.K.S. Iyengar's contribution to yoga. He has been my inspiration. And I was a regular yoga practice started when I did my pre-medical in 1978. That time, this Sagaja Chaitanya, a great Swamiji from Chimayananda group, who was one of the great missionary of Chinmaya group, he taught me yoga. So in that, he has been always telling yoga asana is a starting point. Don't stop at yogasana. Yogasana is very important, but through yoga you reach to next levels. So my Sagaja Chaitanya of Chinmaya group is my living inspiration, and B.K.S. Iyengar was my guru kind of thing in yoga is concerned. And as all of you will agree, anyone who is interested in yoga cannot forget the name of Sage Patanjali, who the founder of yoga in the textual form. Even though yoga was there from time immemorial, it got into a literary form by Sage Patanjali, who is also the founder of Ayurveda and also the founder of Vyakarana Shastra, the Sanskrit grammar. So the three personalities are in my mind whenever I think about yoga.
Beautiful. Let me go over to Snigdha Bharadwaj.
For me, my inspiration is my Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar, the founder of Art of Living. And the one very striking statement that he has made to the world is, you will love it. A healthy mind, a strong mind can carry a weak body. But a strong body cannot carry a weak mind. So there lies the magic. So everything lies with magic, and the best part is the experiential part. It's just not the talk, it's walk the talk that he does. And the experience that we get practicing the practices like Sudarshan Kriya, yoga, the meditation technique, Sahaj Samadhi meditation technique and all, which is now world famous, especially Sudarshan Kriya and Sahaj Samadhi. More than 350, 400 million people in the world are practicing this unique breathing technique and unique meditation technique.
Okay.
So this is all I have to say. And yes, that's he's my inspiration.
Great to hear that. And let's move on to Dr. Madhavi. Dr. Madhavi, tell us who has
Yeah.
been inspiration to start and get into the field of yoga.
Saint Patanjali, who's the founder, as well as Sri Ravi Shankar ji, has inspired us with all the yoga techniques. And yes, these are my inspiration.
Wonderful. Franz, you've been doing it for decades, and for time. I mean, it's been so long since you're immersed in yoga. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I've been doing it since I was 17. Well, my inspiration is definitely my yoga master, Yoga Visharada Sri BNS Iyengar of Mysore, not BKS, BNS Iyengar. It's a common Brahmin name in south of India, Iyengar, right? So he's my inspiration, and he actually guided me from in every nuance of its practice in a practical form, through asanas, through pranayamas, through mudras, through dhyana meditation. And he taught me as well as Vedanta, Vishishta Advaita, particularly of Ramanuja in comparison to Advaita. I used to have other masters as well. I mean, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Bhaktividya Purna Swami of Gurukula in Bengal. He is a very erudite person. There were a couple of other people as well. Well, I learned some Saddarshana there as well, so that's one part of the yoga as well. But mostly, and then my Ayurvedic master, not to forget to mention, P.K. Madhusudanan. He lives in Mysore, but he's from Kerala. His family has tradition of 900, I believe 960 plus years of Ayurveda. And yeah, well, these were pretty much my inspirations, but mainly my yoga master, Yoga Visharada Sri BNS Iyengar.
Thank you.
Good to know about the depth and the background of this. And we are left with Rajvi. Rajvi, you've driven yourself, you've written a book apart from your highly accomplished professional career. What drives you?
For me, I mean, it's my guru, BKS Iyengar. I mean, I've been very fortunate to have started at a very young age. So I literally grew up meeting and learning from him every weekend for decades together, and my parents. So they are my gurus, and they drive me and show me the path, even if they're physically present or not. So they're my inspiration who keep guiding me.
Beautiful. Yeah. Shekhar?
Thank you.
Over to
Thank
you.
you. So we've also been getting a lot of messages in the message box. Sri Ravi Shankar ji has been an inspiration for a lot. There is Majela Rohan who says that her yoga teacher Maitri is an inspiration. And yeah, we have all got inspiration in various ways. Now, on that inspirational note, this year and the year before this has been a year which has been a watershed moment in more ways than one because of the pandemic. And if we had a chance, we would want to just delete that year from our history books. And we've all suffered pandemic in various forms. And I think everybody, all of us, would have had family members who would have had COVID, and we have experienced death. Now, I want to ask this question from each one of you, or I would like to start from Dr. Madhavi Reddy. Ma'am, before we start, of course, ma'am, you're a doctor, and I think it goes without saying you're a frontline worker for us. You're a superstar for us in flesh and blood, and there are no retakes in your case, and including Snigdha ji, who is an Air Force officer, which you told right at the beginning. You guard us in the skies, and Dr. Madhavi guards us in the land, if you have to look at it metaphorically. And I think all of you are doing a wonderful job there as a COVID warrior. Now, Dr. Madhavi, I wanted to know from you, how does yoga play a role here? Because there are people who have suffered from the pandemic, and I know the recovery rate, the recovery from COVID-19 is not easy for everybody. There is stress physically and mentally. We have family members who are still trying to. So I wanted to know from you, your perspective, how can yoga play a bigger role here?
Yes. During the first wave, we didn't experience too many positive pregnant women. But yes, in the second wave, if I would have seen at least 10 patients per day, if you take on an average, at least 5 were positive. So that high was the positivity rate. And to balance them with psychologically as well as through the treatment wise, it was a difficult task. And we from Motherhood, we made sure that everybody were reached regularly and asked about their well-being. And it's not only the mother who was positive, the entire family would have been positive. So that was more traumatic. And few of them would require an ICU care or some, which was even more traumatic. So when we started, like as soon as we get to know that the mother is having like flu-like symptoms like cold, cough, or mild fever, we generally start them off with symptomatic treatment, and we ask them to do certain breathing exercises where their lung capacities will be improved, and to monitor their saturations very regularly, because the saturation was the point where we used to decide whether a home care is better or a hospital care was better. So most of the women, pregnant women, were safe and nobody landed up with any critical situation. And we have not seen any born babies to a positive mothers were positive. So that on a better note, that we have not seen any child infected with COVID positive, and we have not seen any pregnancy landing up with any complication because of COVID. So that was actually a good sign. Even though there were many positive, we have not seen too many complications. Maybe earlier treatment, early detection, and starting the breathing exercise and meditation and psychologically balancing both the family as well as her own health was a critical thing. I mean, we used to give psychological counseling also for women who were depressed for this.
Thank
This
you,
was experience. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, but I have to ask you a more intimate question. And Samira,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to just extend this question further to Dr. Madhavi once again. And I've always wanted to ask this from the doctors. Ma'am, you know, the pandemic has hit all of us really hard. And I think you have been at the forefront managing everything around it, right? Managing rumors, managing physically, and managing it emotionally. How are doctors motivated? How do the because day in and day out, you're going to be seeing death, day in and day out, you're going to be seeing recovery. How do you, for example, or everybody, all the doctors in Motherhood Hospital, manage to keep themselves motivated? How do you keep yourself inspired?
It was a tough thing since I have a small daughter at home. It used to be really scary that going and performing deliveries to positive women, as well as staying with them, doing daily rounds. And we would have seen outpatient, also many patients whom we really don't know whether they were positive or negatives. And yet we would have been exposed. So this was the critical condition from past 2 months. Believe or not, even at home, I used to wear a mask to be on a safer side, so that I should not become a carrier to someone else. So that was a precaution I had to take and balance my domestic as well as professional life. And yeah, this was the thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Full respect to you. And we're all indebted to you in more ways than one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, you know, before we come to an end, and I think we're running out of time, a very important question to all of you again. You know, this is going to be telecasted and a lot of people are going to view this program. What is your one message to the community? You know, being leaders in this area from your personal experience. If there is something that you would like to tell them, this is your time, your platform. Go ahead. I will start with Rajvi.
I would like to say one is let's take all these International Day of Yoga. I mean, for a practitioner, honestly speaking, it means nothing because every day is a day of yoga. But I think it's a good time for people to get motivated to at least start. Once you start, you will proceed, on this path. And then you will have an opportunity to see things in life differently, which in turn will make you a happier person and people around you happy. So I would say make a beginning. Don't leave it for tomorrow.
Perfect.
So whatever way, whatever means, start.
Yeah.
Dr. Gangadharan?
I think yoga is yoga karmasu kaushalam. That's what Gita says about yoga. I will advise that make yoga a part of your life. Yoga is not an exercise alone. Make part of life. When I say even breathing properly becomes part of yoga. Actually, many of us are breathing wrongly by mistake. And if you can learn the proper breathing itself is a beginning. So make the yoga part of your life. Go from step 1 to step 2 and keep on endeavoring into that, following it. It can do a lot. There is no other science in the world which does not make you to invest anything other than within you. You invest in you and reap yourself from that. That's the greatness of yoga. Yoga is very, 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 very self-reliant practice. Once you are thinking you can do yourself without any external help, you can grow. And find out a proper guru before you start anything in advanced yoga. That's my advice.
Thank you for that guidance. And let's move over to Snigdha Bharadwaj. Go ahead.
So, very beautifully, Professor Gangadharan ji said, through breath, yoga and breath. So for me, the one message to everybody who will be watching this and who are watching is make the connection between the mind and the body very, very strong. And the way it happens is it happens only and only through breath. You know, when we are saying that we are just breathing, as Professor Ji said, yes, he said it very correctly. You know, we are hardly, I'm not saying, the research says we don't use more than 30% of the lung capacity, right? With proper breathing, pranayama, especially Sudarshan Kriya, the breathing technique that I spoke about earlier, the research says that once you practice these breathing technique, the lung capacity goes up to 92%. Imagine how strong will be your immunity system, how strong will be your inner self, because then it takes care of the anxiety issue, it takes care of the stress, the inner stress, it takes care of the nervous system, right? And then you become strong from inside as well as strong from outside because you are practicing all the limbs of yoga. So, and of course, meditation is extremely healing. And so all basically practicing yoga. And one very funny thing that I keep telling my friends is about yoga. One of the questions that Shekhar asked France about how is this yoga? I'll just take one sentence, sorry. How do you think the yoga can be made popular or many people can be reached out? Right now, it's no challenge at all, as France said. You want to know the reason? 10 years earlier, yes, it was a challenge, 10 to 15 years earlier. See, the original name is yoga. Correct? Yog is the Sanskrit name, yog. When it was in India as yog, so by the way, it's nothing against anybody, it's just take it in the light spirit. When it was in yoga as yog, people thought practicing yog is only for crazy people who don't wear clothes, people who want to stay away from the family, they take up the kamandal and go to Himalayas and all those things, right? They used to laugh at us. But when yoga got picked up by the Western world, right? Intelligent people came, they learned yoga, they went and they spread yoga all over the world, yoga. Then from there, it came to India, imported yoga became yoga to yoga. And then now yoga is fashion. So actually there is absolutely no challenge. Everybody is practicing yoga. It's just, the difference is whether it's holistic yoga or just one form of yoga. So that is on a light note. And as it is, the whole world is now united through yoga. So as my Gurudev says, it's a one world family. And yes, yoga has brought it together. That's from my side.
Thank you for elucidating it so well. And you just gave it a different perspective altogether, but a very interesting perspective, no doubt. Thank you. Yes, Amira.
Yeah, so who didn't get to speak and share their message? France?
I think we've covered everybody.
Yeah, so I can echo pretty much everybody. Ms. Rajvi Mehta said nicely, just practice it, right? So I can only add, repetition brings out the magic. So if you repeat, 100 times, you're kind of familiar with it. And if you repeat 1,000 times, you own it. Repetition brings out the magic. You have to practice yoga regularly. Somebody said in the beginning that 1 time is not enough, 2 times is not enough. I say 1 time is not enough, 2 times is enough if you practice it regularly throughout longer period of time. Let's say do 2 months, 3 months, 4 months like this, then you start feeling the benefits of the practice. So it's all about regularity of the practice. Like you should not skip the practice. That doesn't mean exactly that you have to bend all the time to some extreme positions, some extreme asanas. It just means that you can simplify. Even, you can do, let's say, if you're doing 3 times a week, you do 1 time a little bit more challenging, and 2 days a little bit easier. So it means the regularity is important. And that includes not just the physical practice. It includes, of course, the breathing exercises, the pranayama, which is, the most, just the foundation of all the hatha yogic practices, and as well as meditation. I think the life without meditation is like an Arctic winter. I meditate every day, almost like an hour and a half, so hour and a half, definitely, like if not about hour, 40 minutes. So, wow. And meditation cleanses you. Meditation heals you. Meditation is also, it's also yoga. Yoga is many components, and one of the components is meditation, and you just have to practice it daily. That's it. You have no excuse. You have to sit down on a chair, or you have to heat your mat, and you have to say your prayers. You have to control your breath, and you have to twist the body and straighten the mind.
Thank you, Franz. As we got Franz to speak, a big thank you to Franz, to Snigdha ji, to Rajvi ji, to Professor Gangadharan, Dr. Madhavi Reddy, and Samira Fernandez, of course. And Franz, before we leave, we have heard you speaking so much of Hindi. Is there a favorite Hindi word of yours which you use quite often? Because I think you're more Indian than most of the people I've met so far. But is there a favorite Hindi word of yours which you use, which you like to use?
I don't think I have the favorite one, but the one I use the most is acha. So that's... So that's acha. And you shake the head, especially when I talk.
Yes, we encounter this a lot.
Yeah.
One question to Franz, if you don't mind. You have done your yoga from Mysore and from BNS Iyengar. I am just curious to know whether you know Professor Lakshmi Tathachar, who recently passed away, and his son. Both of them are very, very well versed, and they are gurus in Vishishta Advaita. You have been interacting.
Unfortunately, I don't know him. So I know some people. I wouldn't perhaps know them by name exactly, but I met quite a few Sri Vaishnavas there, because I come from the Vaishnava tradition myself. And
because he has written the book on Ramanujacharya. His biography has been written by Lakshmi Tathachar. That's why I asked. From Melkote. Sorry for...
no problem, no issue.
No problem, sir. Thank you so much, everybody. And before we finish, a big thanks to our partners, Ecosol Global, Shaman's Entertainment, Mubolum Botanicals, Chikara Media, I Am Here Sunshine, Bakers, Elephant Marketing, Threadworks, Eat Raja, Enablers Event Services, and last but not least, this wonderful audience we have here who made this possible. You could also go to YouTube and like our page. We've got the page which says the S Factor, and I think in a few seconds Samira might put that link up on the message box. But if she doesn't, you can always go to YouTube and click on the link and like, share, and subscribe to it, because this video is going to come up there very soon. And this is the 7th episode, and we really had a lovely time interacting with each one of you. A lot of knowledge gained, a lot of knowledge absorbed, and looking forward to seeing you again very soon in the next couple of days, I think. Thank you so much, Samira.
Yes, on behalf of all of us here at S Factor, our special thanks to all of you for taking time out. Know for sure one thing, that whatever you have said today and whatever you are endorsing is the future, and that is going to make us a very strong community of our own. So our warm wishes to each and every one of you. Keep building, keep moving, keep building, and one day at a time is when together we can achieve and make this world hopefully a perfect place. I have also put the YouTube link here, so do subscribe, and we will definitely stay in touch with you for more future initiatives. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being
Thank
with
you,
us.
Samira and Shekhar. It was lovely being here. Jai Hind.
Lovely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar and Samira. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, France.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.